All right, welcome everybody to our April 21st Sunday service. It's good to see you all here. Still got a few people joining in, so I'll be adding them as we go. Today, we're going to talk about the power of spiritual intention. Um, I think this is pretty important because as a Kriya Yogi, what we're aiming to do is to direct our lives in a very intentional way. Mr. Davis was very consistent in his advice to live intentionally and to disregard that which isn't really necessary to your purposes. So to get started, I have a quote from Paramahansa Yogananda and also some material from Mr. Davis out of his book, The 7 Lessons in Conscious Living. That looks like it's backwards in my screen, but that's what it says. So this quote from Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda said that we are on earth but a little while, and the real reason for being here is very different from what most people imagine. There is a fundamental purpose for our lives. To know it, we must know life's origin and where it is going. Look beyond our short-term goals to what we ultimately want to accomplish and consider life's highest potential for development. So Yogananda is saying here that the reason that we're alive is very different than what most people think. And when you begin practicing meditation or you step on the spiritual path, you start to realize what uh, the real energy and the real motivation. You realize what the real energy and motivation for life is. And what is that? That's to awaken to a state of wholeness, a state of well-being, a state of connection. And it's natural. It's not something that you have to try to do. It's not something that you necessarily have to force. It's just something that is our God-given birthright. Now, a lot of people don't experience this because they are scattered or they're not really clear on why they're here or what they should be doing. And we have to remember that yoga itself, the term yoga means to unite, to bring things together. And if you can find a meaningful purpose in your life and you can commit yourself to that, you're going to tend to be happier. You're going to tend to feel like things work out a little bit better for you. Or if they don't work out, what you tend to see is that the experiences that you have are obstacles which really are there to inspire growth towards learning how to succeed in your ultimate purpose. Now, in the 7 Lessons in Conscious Living, in chapter 1, which is entitled Discover the Purpose of Your Life, Mr. Davis lists four indications of what life is for. The first one, he says, is to learn to live in accord with the fundamental principles, laws of nature, which determine its actions and processes. That's number one. Number two is to learn to have your life enhancing desires easily fulfilled. Number three, learn to have all of your needs effortlessly satisfied. And number four, to awaken to self and God realization in this incarnation. So what we're going to focus on today is number two, learning to have your life enhancing desires easily fulfilled. And it's important to really pay attention to the sentence structure because he says, learn to have your life enhancing desires easily fulfilled. He doesn't say, learn to have every whim easily fulfilled. I'm going to read this paragraph. Mr. Davis says, the desire to experience total health, well-being, harmonious relationships, the meaningful accomplishment of purposes, and rapid spiritual growth, that these are wholesome and life-enhancing desires. So he's telling you right now that these are the desires to focus on. In the next sentence, he states that all other desires should be renounced. So let's go back and read that again. So these are the things that are the life enhancing desires that are supportive of yogic lifestyle and also supportive of the sense of fulfillment in life. So, what's the first desire? The desire to experience total health. That makes sense. Well being, harmonious relationships, the accomplishment of meaningful purposes, and rapid spiritual growth. That these are the natural and wholesome desires, and everything else is to be renounced. If you can get behind that, you will find that your spiritual path becomes easy. And when I remember Mr. Davis's example, how he lived his life, he was a very good role model for this because he did not get involved with uh, anything that was unnecessary. Yet, for some reason, whenever, or at least I would visit with him, he always seemed very content. He always seemed very enthusiastic, awake, and alert. And I think, in a way, that's what we're all striving for. I mean, we want to have more enthusiasm in life. We want to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. We want to have a sense of purpose. We want to have a sense of drive. And we also want to feel supported in life. And what you'll find is that when you get very clear on what your intentions are, you will tend to find the support that you need. This is talked about in the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras, that when you begin to put your attention in a direction and you commit to it and really commit to it, you will tend to find the energy you need to move in that direction. And you will tend to find not only the resources you need, but the motivation you need, the knowledge you need. And when difficulties do arise that get in your way, you tend to find the enthusiasm to not be disturbed by it. You tend to find the enthusiasm to say, all right, well, this is something to learn from. This is something to grow from. So, in order to tap into this capacity to benefit from the power of spiritual intention, the first step is to get very clear on what it is you're interested in accomplishing. And if you can do that, and you can bring that into your meditation practice, you will tend to find that your life is as if divinely guided. So, how do we bring it into our meditation practice? Well, before you go into meditation, again, become very clear on what it is you're looking towards, what it is you're wanting to accomplish, to know, to feel, to experience. And then what you do is you spend your meditation time not digging into that, not hyper focusing on it. You spend your meditation time becoming as clear and still as possible. And you settle into that space of stillness to the best of your ability, because we all have different abilities. So you settle into that peak experience. And then after you're done meditating, you've concluded your practice session, that's the time to bring into your mind and your awareness, what is your intention? If your intention is greater well-being, physical well-being, emotional well-being, relationship well-being, then what you do is you bring it into your mind and into your awareness, and you look at it as though you're kind of pulling it up into the screen of your mind. And you wonder, okay, this is my ideal. So I'm going to hold this ideal. I'm going to commit myself to this ideal. And in that experience, it doesn't mean that within that meditation session, or even within the first few meditation sessions, that you automatically know exactly what needs to be done to accomplish that, or things just manifest for you. You are setting up the stage, and you are kind of projecting that intention into cosmic mind, so that cosmic mind gets the sense of, okay, we need to now organize life, the energy of this person's life, the people in their life, the situations in their life, so that they can go in that direction and experience that. And the reason we have to do this repeatedly is because we have to remember that our general experiences in life come about because of how we habitually feel, think, and act. And this is something that I learned as a Vedic astrologer. In Vedic astrology, people come to you and they're asking questions. Well, how can I have success here? How can I achieve this? And all kinds of things you can imagine. And and if you look at a person's chart, an astrological chart, what you see is if someone is not having success in an area, it's usually because the karma that's indicated in that chart is all over the place. You look at the area that they've got a question about, and you don't see anything different than what they're experiencing, which is a little bit of chaos, uh, insecurity, um, lack of uh, positive growth in that area. And so you are seeing the karma as reflected in the birth chart. And what they want to know is how can, from their astrological chart, what can they do? And you see, the astrological chart is really just meant to give you information. So the information is you're scattered there. You're not you're not focused, which means you're not going to have success. It's like if I want to become a good musician at one instrument, but I decide I want to play the banjo, the fiddle, the guitar, the saxophone, and the tuba. Well, I'm never going to get good at any of them unless I've got a lot of time on my hands. So you have to kind of pick one and go with it. So every time you go into meditation and you have your intention or your ideal and you focus on it and you imagine it and you affirm, yes, this is the direction I would like to go. And you have to really feel it. Then what happens is day after day, it's like you're turning the dials. You can imagine there are multiple dials here, and one's pointing this way, and one's pointing that way, and they're all pointing in different directions. Every day, you're turning one dial a little bit more up. You're turning the next dial a little bit more to center. You're turning the third dial a little bit more to center. And as you do that day after day, holding that intention, holding that commitment, eventually all those dials get very close to pointing in the same direction. And then what happens is um, situations in your life are presented to you for positive change. And this is what is also important to keep in mind, that you will have to change too. Meaning you can't hold an intention to go in a certain direction and think that you're going to stay the way you are right now, which means you might be inspired to change who you're spending time with because they influence your behavior. You might be inspired to look for another career. You might be inspired to radically shift how you thought health comes about. And even for people who are yogically inspired, you can get on a health kick and get into all these different kinds of fads. And if you think that's the way it is and it's not working for you, you have to set your intention to what your ideal is, the well-being that you're looking for, and then be open to other possibilities that you might not necessarily be conceptualizing. And this is true for our spiritual path as well. You say you want to be self-realized. Well, do you? And I ask that question because what most people say when they say, I want to be self-realized, is I kind of want to be how I am and just feel really great all the time. That's often what they attribute self-realization to. And they don't recognize that the yogis that we look up to, the yogis that we idolize, they lived in a very specific way. They were very focused. They were not pulled by one whim or the next whim. They did not think that they were going to get satisfaction out of the things of this life. They knew where the satisfaction came from, which was inward, that inner spirit, that realization of the Purusha, the self. They knew that. And so they set their intention in that direction. And then they explored, okay, what do I need to do in life to make that a reality for me, which required of them to change things, to change circumstances within their life, and to, again, move those dials a little bit at a time so that they could go in that direction. So there really is, there's a great power in setting an intention. And you can spiritualize that by using that ability of meditation to become calm and clear and to, in a way, attune to cosmic mind and release that intention into cosmic mind, and do that every day and be open to how your life is guided, the changes that are presented to you, and following those changes. And if you keep doing that step by step, what you find is you do tend to feel a little bit better. You do tend to have more harmonious relationships. You do tend to be able to pick up the Yoga Sutras or listen to a spiritual lecture or go deeply into meditation and recognize, oh, this is what it's all about. But it takes time. It takes time and it takes consistency. And Mr. Davis talks about this concept of universal and cosmic mind. He says, because your mind is a particularized aspect of the omnipresent universal or cosmic mind, clearly defined desires, whether below the threshold of conscious awareness or consciously nurtured, tend to attract the necessary resources, events, and circumstances which will enable them to be actualized. So if you know that you're a part of this cosmic mind, this universal mind, that you are a facet of it, and you decide to tune what's going on up here in your field, or just all over your field, really, because it's in your body as well, and you go in a direction and you make a commitment, you will tend to be more successful in all areas of your life. Now, we have to remember there's just something about being alive, which means that if you think that through spiritual intention setting, you're going to avoid illness, old age, death, and change, that's just silly, because it doesn't work that way. As long as we are engaged in life, change is constant, which means people are going to come in and go out of our lives, which means sometimes relationships will go away, sometimes they'll come to us, sometimes people will pass away from us. Situations change. I'm telling you that because I don't want to encourage any kind of childish idea that this is some kind of sorcery, or that there really is a way to control everything. But what you can do is you can always go into meditation and you can recognize that you are part of the wholeness of life. And that's really the most important thing. To go into meditation and recognize that you are the wholeness of life. You are the Purusha, you are the seer, observing changing nature. And then recognize that you are also a unique expression of this infinite consciousness, which means that there are certain things here for you to do. And so you have to become very clear on those. And if you can stay focused and committed to those things at the end of your life, or even you don't have to wait till the end of your life, moment by moment, you will tend to feel a sense of support, a sense of wholeness, a sense of meaning. And it's not a sense of meaning that's dependent on accomplishing anything. It's a sense of meaning that's dependent upon simply recognizing that you are participating in a meaningful way in this expression of life and consciousness. What is the meaning and the purpose of being in a relationship and being married? Is it to get somewhere? Is it to get something out of the other person? If that's the case, it's not really love. But if it's to be with the other person, moment by moment, through all the changing fluctuations and situations, and you decide it is important to share this path with them, to walk with them, then every moment becomes meaningful. I was recently talking with a friend of mine who was describing an issue that one of her friends was going through, a relationship issue. And she said, well, I think my friend has some other guys in her back pocket. And I thought to myself, if you've got some people in your back pocket, I'm pretty sure that that's not going to be a very good relationship because it means you're not committed. I think this can be true for our spiritual path as well. It reminds me of when I first learned Kriya Yoga. I learned Kriya Yoga from Mr. Davis almost 24 years ago now. And I can remember the people who introduced me to Kriya Yoga. They thought it was just the best thing in the world. And they were older than me. They were probably about 20 years older than me when they introduced me to it. And they said, Roy is a wonderful person to learn from. So I went and learned from him. So I go and learn from him. And I have a sense, yes, this is important. This is the path to follow. And I come back home. And 3 months later, the same people are like, well, maybe you should learn TM meditation. I thought, well, why? Why would you talk up this teacher, this Kriya Yoga teacher, and this path, and now you're shifting gears, 3 months later? And I think many people do this in their spiritual path. They find a path that probably is worthwhile for them, but because every now and then they are challenged because they have to change and they have to grow, then they start thinking, well, maybe I need to look into primordial sound meditation instead. Maybe then I'll be comfortable and happy. And they don't realize that to really feel fulfilled in life and to really kind of tap into this power of spiritual intention setting, you have to be ready to be enthusiastic about the changes that are presented to you. Meaning, whatever you want to move towards, whatever you want to set your intention towards, you don't just want to have an idea that you're going to push a button and then the joy of it's going to be revealed to you. You have to be willing to say, you know what, I'm really looking forward to this process, wherever this process takes me. When you've found that kind of motivation and drive, no matter what difficulties arise, you're still going to be enthused. And, I consider some of the people who are in the Kriya Yoga apprenticeship program who are very successful people. And by successful, I don't mean they have a lot of money and all these kinds of things. That's not what I mean by success. By success, what I mean is they are accomplished and skillful in what they put their minds to. One person in the apprenticeship program trains high level athletes. And when you talk to someone who's an athlete training at a high level, what do they do with their time? Everything that they do goes towards success, towards being an athlete. Every choice that they make of food that they eat, they think to themselves, is this going to support me? When they sleep, they're knowing that sleep, that their focus on getting enough rest is for that purpose of having more energy to be a good athlete. They'll spend hours a week, at multiple hours a day in the gym for that purpose. And that's just simply to run a race. Now, I'm not criticizing people who like to run, but what I'm saying is we're talking about self and God realization. They're talking about having a strong enough body to run super fast for a short amount of time. And if you look at those two things, if someone is willing to put in the time and the energy and focus their intention to do that, well, if we are truly sincere about waking up, about engaging our spiritual path, we need to recognize that we're probably going to have to do even more than that. And yet, I'm not saying that this is a drag. I'm saying that this is something that if it's meaningful to you, you will enjoy it. So when it comes to your intentions, be very clear and specific. Don't set your intentions based on what other people have made you feel is important. For example, even spiritually speaking, maybe you're involved in spirituality because a whole bunch of people told you it's important and you would feel better about yourself if you were enlightened. If that's the reason you're doing this, back up a little bit. If, however, you feel a deep drive and motivation to look within and to recognize that as a human being, you've been given a great gift. You can think, you can reason. You're not an animal anymore. You've evolved from that, which means you're not just driven by your hormones or your moods or your emotions or your instincts. You might still have those because we do exist in an animal body, but you are a human being with these energy centers, these chakras, and the higher brain center and the higher chakras, so that you have the capacity to contemplate clear and more pristine states of consciousness and to abide there. And if that is an inspiration for you, and every time you sit in meditation, you can acknowledge that in a happy way, in a way that's exciting for you, enthusiastic for you, what you're going to find is day by day, your life will be transformed, and you will know what Paramahansa Yogananda knew, what Ramana Maharshi knew, what Roy Eugene Davis knew, what anyone who's put in that commitment, that dedication, that intention, and they've sustained it consistently, moment by moment, day after day, with enthusiasm, then you will know what freedom is. And that's really the whole point of this practice. However, to return before we meditate, Mr. Davis does state that total health, well being, harmonious relationships, the accomplishment of meaningful purposes, and rapid spiritual growth is natural and wholesome. And the reason I bring this up is because sometimes people think, well, I should become a renunciate and give up all my relationships. Well, no, it's okay. It's meaningful to want to connect with others. You just want to do it in the highest way, in the way that is mutually supportive to you and to them, um, which leads to calmness within, so that it's not distracting to you. Experiencing total health and well-being, that's okay. The problem arises when you become a fanatic about it, or you really expect that everything should be perfect all the time. One of the people that I see at the gym, I was talking about my shoulder kind of giving me a little bit of issues, and he says, well, you're not really weightlifting until you get your what do you say? Until you get until you get a rotator cuff injury. So he gave me some exercises to stop that, but that was an example of someone who's indicating and knows if you're participating in life, every now and then you're going to have to deal with something so that you can get stronger, so that you can grow. And that's going to be true in every area of your life. So you want to experience total health and well-being, but you don't want to be neurotic about it. If you have a little hiccup here and there, that's part of life. If you have a genetic or chronic issue that you have to deal with that probably might not be able to be resolved, that's also part of being a human being. And you can still be as healthy as you can be for yourself. And that's the most important thing. And that's really a fine line that we have to dance around. But you are the one that has to learn how to dance it. And the accomplishment of meaningful purposes. Really consider what is meaningful for you, not because everyone else told you it was meaningful, not because the world says it's meaningful, but when you actually sit down and you ask yourself, what is meaningful to me? That's the intention you want to follow up on. And some people, they don't really have a meaningful purpose, meaning it's hard for them. They're not the type of person that like has a deep sense of, yes, this is important to me. And that's okay. Well, what do you do if you're in that situation? Find someone else or an organization or a mission of some kind that you can support. You can support others in their purpose, right? I can remember when I first met Mr. Davis and I was a massage therapist. And sure, I wanted to be involved in meditation and yoga, and I just loved conversing about the philosophy and teaching it. But I didn't really have much to offer, really. I mean, I was interested in it. I could understand the philosophy, but as far as my capacity to teach or my capacity to hold a space, you know, I didn't have a whole lot to offer. And so what was meaningful to me was telling all my friends about Kriya Yoga, giving Mr. Davis's books away. Every May, I remember he used to give away any book that you wanted. And I would go down there and I would load up my trunk with boxes of his books. Why? So I'd take them to libraries. I'd give them to my friends. I'd go to yoga studios and pass them out. Why did I do that? Because I understood the value of Kriya Yoga and what Mr. Davis was sharing. And even though I myself didn't have a whole lot to offer, what I could offer was support in that way. So you don't have to be concerned if you yourself don't have this great personality drive. But you can ask yourself, well, how can I support something else that's meaningful to me that others have already begun, that others are already doing? And that can be very satisfying to you. Okay. So we'll meditate for a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll try to work in this idea of spiritual intention setting within the process. But before we get there, just so I don't forget, what I want to share with you, and I know many of you already know, is that the Kriya Yoga Alliance has a website now. So let me pull that up for you so I can show it to you. I can find my share screen button. Okay. So if you go to KriyaYogaAlliance.com, this is a page, and these are students of Roy Eugene Davis and the Kriya Yoga tradition. And maybe you came to this particular talk 9 a.m. April 21st through this page. But the Kriya Yoga Alliance is offering weekly talks and meditations. And if you go to the page, you'll find who's speaking, what time, and a Zoom link so that you can click on that and participate. And you can also look at about the teachers to figure out who's who and what they're up to and what they're about. But I wanted to take some time to share that because I think it's very important that as Kriya Yogis, as people on the spiritual path, we do have the opportunity to come together, and we do have the opportunity to meditate together and remain inspired. I personally am not a big group person, meaning I don't want lots of groups getting together and doing things, because I think then what happens is people are more interested in socializing and being part of a group. But I do think it's helpful to come together every now and then to help maintain our enthusiasm, to help maintain our inspiration. And that's really the role and the purpose of the Kriya Yoga Alliance. So if you aren't aware of that already, you can go to that website and stay up to date on what's going on. Let's go ahead and meditate now. So sitting up straight, closing your eyes, turning your awareness within. Feel the body and feel the breath. And just take a moment to acknowledge your current state of consciousness, how you feel, how your body feels. And on each breath, allow yourself to feel just a little more grounded, a little more settled. And you're not beginning any techniques just yet. You're just observing, feeling. And I'll read a quote from Swami Shri Yukteswar to Paramahansa Yogananda. So Swami Shri Yukteswar said to Paramahansa Yogananda, if the object of one's clearly defined desire does not yet exist, the universe will produce it for the person who desires it. So once more, if the object of one's clearly defined desire does not yet exist, the universe will produce it for the person who desires it. So before we begin any techniques, right now, related to your current life situation, consider something, one of the wholesome desires, supportive desires, that you could use some encouragement. You could use some focus and intentionality with that and that desire. Something you'd like to feel, see, experience that would be helpful for you on your awakening path. It doesn't matter if it doesn't exist. Let all that go for now. And just acknowledge this. This would be wonderful. This would be so helpful for me in my life, in my commitment to the wholeness of life, to feeling the wholeness of life. If I could find a way to experience, to work with this particular situation harmoniously. So bring that up in your mind and feel it in your body. Define it clearly. Be very specific. Don't be wishy washy about it. Just state it obviously, directly. And now in your mind, acknowledge with enthusiasm, with joy, with energy. I am willing and committed to move towards this. I'm willing and committed to see this through, no matter what changes are required, no matter how I have to grow or reevaluate the structure of my life. I'm really looking forward to getting started with this or to supporting it. And once you've made that affirmation, let it go. Just take a deep breath in, release it, feel the body, feel the breath, and we'll meditate. We'll begin by honoring and acknowledging the teachers of this lineage, the Kriya Yoga tradition, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, Paramahansa Yogananda, Roy Eugene Davis, and their successors. So meditate using a technique that you found to be helpful. We'll meditate together in silence, probably for the next 15 minutes. And then we'll come back together to tie in this intention setting at the end of our meditation. Wherever you are with your meditation practice, if you're practicing a technique, you can conclude that technique. Just let your awareness return to the body and to the breath, feeling the fullness of the body, the fullness of the breath. The sensation of your conscious awareness. Now remember that intention that we set at the very beginning, the intention that you were willing to be committed to be enthusiastic about exploring. And in your heart, define that intention again. This is what I'm willing to cultivate in my life. This is the direction I'm willing to go. And I look forward to whatever change or challenge or anything that comes my way to make me stronger, to realize this wholesome, life enhancing, life supporting experience. I'm happy about that process. Feel as though you look forward to it, the process, as if you were going to be in a relationship with someone or engage in a creative project that you were really looking forward to spending the time in the moment by moment commitment. And feel as though your mind is blending with cosmic mind or universal mind. And the mind is not just your thoughts, it's your capacity to feel, to sense, to be aware. And so feel your awareness blending as if there's a thread of radiant light. It's invisible to our human eyes, but permeates, vibrates through all of creation, down through matter, through the elements, clear up through the energetic realms, the causal realms, perfectly radiant and vibrant with the mind of divinity, the being of divinity, which maybe you can see in your mind's eye as a radiant sun or vortex of light, free in space. And acknowledge that every day you're willing to pay attention to, cultivate, support the intention that you've set, to see it, to feel it at the conclusion of your meditation sessions, and then to be aware and curious throughout the day about how you can continue to cultivate this intention that was set deep within your spiritual practice. And release that focus, that intention, and feel within your heart well-being for all and everyone. Feel in your heart this joy to be a representation of spiritual light within the world, whatever it takes to master your own consciousness. To move in the light of divinity within the wholeness of life, that your consciousness supports others in that process, your intention, your enthusiasm. And you see all beings everywhere, clear, established in wisdom, and supported from the essence of being, the essence of divinity on all levels. We'll chant Om once together to conclude this meditation session. Peace. Okay, well, thank you all for being here today. It was wonderful to see you. A few other announcements, as you know, you can check out the Kriya Yoga Alliance page to keep up to date on the Sunday services. Next Sunday will be Shalin, and that'll be 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm the oddball. That's only because I had my time set way in advance for the duration of the year, so that's why mine are at 9 a.m. But everyone else is at 11 a.m. Those of you who are interested in participating in the Kriya Yoga apprenticeship course, this is the time to be thinking about that, because we accept applications for 2025 at the end of this year, and there are some requirements. You have to have meditated for at least 6 months, and you also have to have gone through a preliminary online course to make sure you understand what it's all about. So if you're interested in participating in that, go to kriyayogaonline.com, the apprenticeship course tab, and look at that, because you need to get your application in between October 15th and December 15th. Ideally, the earlier the better. And then the final announcement, which I'm sure you know about, June, let's see, I'll just pull it up for you. In June, we're having an online Kriya Yoga retreat. Let's see. And we're going to have presenters from the Kriya Yoga Alliance giving workshops. So it's June 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's a stay-at-home retreat. If you go to kriyayogaonline.com, the events page, you'll find it. We've got Ryan Strong, Chris Sartain, Pascal Chambers, Stella Wetke, David McGraw, Donnell Mason. I feel like someone else should be in there, but I don't have it listed. You can see our agenda. It starts on Thursday. We'll have an 8 a.m. meditation session and a 6 p.m. meditation session, and then 2 presentations during the day. It's on a donation basis, so if you're interested, please contact us to sign up. And feel free to share that with anyone you know that might be interested in participating. So anyway, it was wonderful to see you, and I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and we'll be in touch. So take care. Peace.